there's a portal available that can open up a way of thinking, seeing, a relationship with the mind that is not so tethered to the mind that you believe everything the mind says.
Right.
And that's one of the greatest gifts anyone can discover for themselves, is that what occurs in the mind is actually not your truest self.
Right.
And it's the most counterintuitive thing because you're like, wait, it's in my
Right.
mind. Of course it's me.
Yeah, of
Who
course.
else is it?
It's
Who else
always
is it?
talking. Yeah.
Who else could it be?
Mhm.
So
Welcome to Came Here to Love, a podcast hosted by me, Liz Logan, where we explore heart-centered conversations with visionary leaders from around the world. This podcast is a journey into wisdom, a path to transformation, and an invitation to catch the highest vibration of all, love.
Hey guys, welcome to Came Here to Love. I'm your host, Liz Logan, and today we get to sit down with a multidisciplinary artist and tech pioneer. His purpose-driven success has been at the heart of his business. He's an acclaimed as a visual artist and a global recognized musician. His name is Murray Hidary, and he has brought MindTravel, which is his company, to iconic theaters and spectacular outdoor venues in over 100 cities all over the world. He has done performances in the deserts of the Middle East and also the first piano concert on the continent of Antarctica. Murray seeks to bridge the gap in understanding through the universal language of music. He is particularly interested in the human experience and the thought. MindTravel is his company, and it really helps people better connect with themselves and to one another. So I would love to welcome to Came Here to Love, Murray. I'm so grateful we get to have you on the show today. Thanks for agreeing to do this with me.
thank you, Liz. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's so fun. So I always start every episode by giving my guests something that I'm really loving in my life, whether it's a product or a person or an event or anything in my life that I'm loving. Is there anything right now that you would love to share that you're enjoying in your life?
I travel so much because of all the concerts and, we do like 130 concerts a year all over the
Wow.
country, all over the world and all that. And so it's like these little things that just make my flight and my experience like a little more enjoyable, and a little
Ooh, do
better,
share.
you know.
What is it?
And so, well, okay, so first of all, I got these new like insane like noise canceling headphones that they just make the trip so delightful. And I always use like just the AirPods, which are
Yeah.
really good, but now I have like these like insane huge like headphones that
Are
just,
they like these?
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like those over the ear, but
Yeah.
like this noise canceling and the quality, and I just get transported to this other world. And whether I'm listening to music or an audio book or whatever, it's like it's this delightfully intimate space,
Mm,
while you're at 40,000 feet and with, you know, I don't know, chaos around you sometimes,
totally.
and babies screaming, and yeah, and it doesn't matter anymore. Now it's like it's all great. It's all just happening. And uh,
It's so funny that you're saying that because honestly, that's what I feel like my experience. I mean, there wasn't a lot of distraction around us, but when I first experienced you, we were all on noise. I can't get away from
uh,
these headphones because
yeah.
I love how I don't hear anything outside of these headphones and you and I talking right now. But we were transported. So I want to take everybody back to the minute that I actually really had this transmission with you, which was in the crater of the Serengeti in Africa. And Murray is going to share more of what he does with his MindTravel company. But basically, he dropped a baby grand piano, as normal people do, in the crater of Africa. And we were all on headphones, and you performed this performance that honestly, it may have been one of my top 5 peak performance or experiences in my life in terms of where it took me.
Mhm.
So you're talking about headphones on a plane
Right.
and I said to you after this, but what you're able to do through your music and through your transmission, I felt like, and this is what I said to you, I felt like you opened a portal
Mm.
and you literally direct connected us to source conscious energy. and that intelligence. And what I love so much about that experience is that I felt really connected to my higher self. I felt really connected to your higher self. It was like I could see you so clearly as source. And then I felt like we were just on a different stratosphere. And the energy and the magnetism of that, place in Africa is so magical anyways. But tell us what I experienced. Why did I experience it so deeply? And how did you even come up with this concept? Because I know you've studied music, but tell us a little bit about that whole journey that I experienced.
So maybe just to set the kind of visual for folks is, so yeah, we were in Tanzania in Africa, in the
Mm-hmm.
Serengeti, and we went to a place called the Ngorongoro crater, which is this very special place where this, I guess, a meteor struck
Yeah.
Earth, how many tens of thousands of years ago or more. And it created actually this ecosystem where you have, and it's massive, many
Yeah.
square miles. And there are species of animals living there that are kind of a branch off of their genetic line because they've been, isolated in this
Right.
crater for so many generations. And so it's just this remarkable ecosystem. There's this huge lake, and you come over the top of the crater as you drive in on this road, and you are met with this expanse of water and grass and nature and flamingos. Do you remember the
Of
flamingos?
course. Of course. It's
You
so
know,
random to see the
like
pink flamingos.
thousands of pink
Yeah.
flamingos, and then of course you have all of these, wildebeest, and there are actually lions there, and there's hyenas, and there's all
I
these
mean,
just.
not to say it, but you're inside the Lion King. You really are
You really
inside
are.
the movie.
You really are.
Hmm.
Zebra everywhere, and
Hmm.
there's hippos, and it's just like
And they're all in
fantastical.
harmony. They're
They're
all
all in
hanging
harmony.
out. Yeah.
They're all in harmony. And we set up camp in this area by the water, and we parked all of our, God knows, dozens of jeeps, and
Hmm.
then we set up the piano, and we do it in a very particular way because we go to such remote locations. So it's actually this piano we're able to. It's like modular. I'm able to kind of take it apart, put it back together and stuff, and we bring it to these incredible locations, and then all the participants. I think there was about 150 of us or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
We listened through these wireless headphones, so that because we're outdoors, everyone gets to have a very intimate, very direct, very immediate experience of the sound,
Right.
as if I'm playing for each person. Now, I say that because it's a very important part of, I think, the experience you had,
Mm.
where you really go somewhere internally.
Mm.
So, there's both this external
Mm.
transport that takes place. We're being
Hmm.
transported. Externally, we're in these fantastical locations, and
Hmm.
it's not just the Serengeti in Africa, but
You
we
don't have to travel that far to
you
have
don't
that
have to travel.
experience with Murray.
That's right. I mean, it's literally your local beach, right? It's like it's
Right.
the beach in Santa Monica and in Miami Beach and Central Park in New York, right? So we bring it to the biggest cities, right,
Hmm.
in our
Hmm.
country, but connected to nature, right?
Right.
Where I want to bring the audience to where I find my inspiration, to where I find and connect with creativity, and like you
Hmm.
said, with source, right? It's going to be a lot easier to do it sitting by the ocean, or in these expanses of nature, in these landscapes. And so the transportation, the travel part of mind travel, right, is not just around us, but then it's within. And the music is what bridges the two. And music is this unique language that, as humanity, we've discovered. I want to say discovered and not invented. Like I think we really discovered it because the whole universe I view as music, as musical.
Of course. Everything's vibration, right?
That's right. So if you view the whole universe as this infinite spectrum of vibration, of frequency, then the whole universe is a musical expression. And
Hmm.
then it's a question of, okay, how as human beings are we participating in that symphony, in that cosmic
Right.
symphony? And so, yes, and through our ingenuity, we create these incredible instruments and the language of music, and harmony and all of that. And it's that language that enables us to express emotion where words seem to leave off, right? We say that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when we don't have the words for something,
Mm-hmm.
we turn to music. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but but it's not just an expression and giving a voice to our emotional experience, but it also seems to allow us to connect with something universal, something larger than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it simultaneously enables us to put expression to the most personal,
Yeah.
right, to the most specific and personal pain, hurt, joy, all of it, and
Mm-hmm.
also the grandest, the greatest um, expression of connection at a universal level, and really a divine level. If we were to say, what does an experience of the divine feel like? I think that through music, it's probably the greatest pathway,
Yeah.
certainly for me, to manifest that divine connection.
No, and your transmission, I mean, I was thinking either the mothership is going to land in this crater and we're going to the next level, or I'm going to meet the maker and this is the end of my life. I mean, it really was that kind of a transformational moment where, as you're saying, it's the connection to the divine. And I mean, first, we're in Africa where all life started, right? So we're in this really old, 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 rich land. But then just the whole way you I mean, this is where your genius is, where I feel like you're the channel that's coming through you to really take us on that journey of how do we connect to the deepest layer of ourselves, to our souls, and then to journey beyond that and realize that we are all one. We are all one.
Mhm.
And that connection to the divine energy, you can feel it every time I hear your music. Now it's downloaded and I'm listening to it on my vibrational bed as I'm, trying to recalibrate in this crazy world. And it always takes me to a different place. So thank you for that gift. And I guess it couples with the question of how did you get there?
Music has always been this constant companion in my life since my earliest memories have music in them in some way. I was probably around 5 when I started playing.
Wow.
And
What did you
so
play at 5?
at 5, the first instrument was the cello, a very small one,
Wow.
but
Okay.
albeit a cello, a very, very small one.
Wow.
And, I was in kindergarten, doing recitals. And yeah, I mean,
Were
it's kind
you
of,
did you choose the cello or did the cello choose you?
no, it was my mom. And,
Okay.
it's one of those parenting stories where, my mom wanted to take music lessons when she was a kid, but my grandparents, for whatever reason, just never did it. And
Mhm.
so then, when she became a parent, my older brother and myself, and she got us lessons right away. At 5 years old, we both started. And
That's
so,
so cool.
so
What
my,
a cool
my
mom.
yeah, my brother played the violin, and then she didn't want us to play the same thing, so then I played the cello, and then
She
and
wanted a
then
whole band, right? She was like, I need
pretty
the whole thing.
pretty much, and then well, then there was three more kids, so then the rest of the kids came, my siblings, and so we did have like a little family ensemble that we would
Oh, that's very cool.
play together. And then we all, the piano was kind of an add-on to that. And then, I really took to the piano because, the piano enabled me to really have this exploration of not just melody, but harmony. You have the whole orchestra in front of you, So by the
Mhm.
time I got to high school, I was, writing my own songs and had my first band and wrote the alma mater to our school. And,
Wow.
and I just knew that I wanted to write music and create music of my own. And I had my own thing to say with music. And I was fortunate enough to find uh, meditation as a really young person. I was 16
Wow.
when I found, the book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And then, that set me off on a whole, just a journey into the rabbit hole of Eastern philosophy and meditation. And, I went to, Zen temples and traveled the world for a year. And I really went deep into Eastern thought, Eastern meditation, and the two started talking to one another. Eastern
Wow.
philosophy and Western classical music.
Wow.
And then it was through the sessions of sitting at the piano and just by myself and kind of seeing where the music wanted to go. And it became a musical form of meditation. And it enabled me to develop what now we would call emotional regulation, to just like
Hmm.
process emotion, to just deal with the stresses of the day.
Right.
And but it also enabled me to put expression to the things I was learning about, reading about, hearing about, studying in Eastern philosophy in terms of, the this universal, this cosmic consciousness and connection. I was like, well, what would that sound like? Like what, as a musician, I was always like, what would the universe sound like if you could put sound to it, right? I mean, we know that sound needs a medium to be
Hmm.
heard
Hmm.
or felt or anything. But okay, but so there's no sound technically in space because it's a vacuum. Okay, got that. But there is still vibration in space.
Right.
I mean, we know actually that gravitational waves, which were theorized by Einstein, were proven some years ago through experiment. And we now know that there's these huge undulations from collisions of neutron stars, of black holes. When they collide, they actually, it's like shaking out a sheet on your bed,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the whole fabric of space is undulating, waving through
Right.
billions of light years. I mean, it's wild.
That's
And
wild.
and they're in a certain frequency. And the first one to be measured by this instrument called LIGO. Anyway, it's this
Hmm.
scientific project. It was actually in the key of C, remarkably. So it's like,
So interesting.
and yeah, you can't quote hear it, but you can measure it. And if it
Right.
were to have sound, right, and if you were to layer the infinite number of these gravitational waves, the infinite number of these cosmic phenomena that are happening right throughout the universe, throughout the
Hmm.
hundreds of billions of galaxies and the gosh knows how many trillions of planets there are,
Right.
and stars and suns and and all of it, like everything vibrating, all of this happening. What would the ultimate sound of all of that be? And
Wow.
that was like the biggest question I could ask myself.
That's a pretty big one. I'm not
And
gonna lie.
and I think one's life is directed by the questions one asks.
Yeah, of course.
So, that was for me that I mean, yeah, you could ask the more common version of that, which is like what's going on in the universe? Why am I here? What's my place? But yeah, you can go that route, and I
Right.
certainly did. But then for me, it was like, okay, how do I put a lens on that? Like the filter for me was a musical one, a vibrational one, because I got that
Hmm.
pretty early, and I was like, okay, well, what would it all sound like? And if I can put a sound to it, I can put an experience to it. And I realized that any definition we would attempt at the mystery of it all, the divinity of it all, would have to be an experience. It couldn't be
Right. Of course.
something we intellectualized.
It has to be transmitted. It has to be transferred.
So, so
Hmm.
that's why to me music has such a power because it can only be experienced. You can't touch
Right.
and feel music. You really can't.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Mm-mm.
okay, a
But what an
sculpture.
emotion it brings us. My gosh.
That's right. So it is a feeling. It is an experience, and then the wonderful thing is that as a musician, as a composer, you can facilitate that experience for others.
Hmm.
And that's why I think it's such a gift to have music, but also to be able to share it.
Honestly, what you've done, everyone needs to check out MindTravel that's listening to this episode right now. And even beyond that, go find where Murray's going to be next. I hope I'm going to be somewhere Murray is next soon because it's just such a powerful, it really is one of the most powerful transformations you can have. I'd love to know, was there a moment of transformation that really significantly altered or shaped your journey?
There's a few that are coming up for me, but I mean, the first one that's coming up was an experience at the age of 18 where I just learned to scuba dive. I was in the Great Barrier Reef of Australia. This is on a trip that I took by myself at 18 around the world for a
Wow.
year. I just want to see the world,
Yeah, of course.
And I learned to scuba dive by bartering with this because I couldn't afford to pay for the scuba diving
Right.
class. And so I bartered with this scuba diving instructor by helping. I worked on this boat he was building by like sanding the deck, and then in exchange
He
for
would
that,
trade you.
yeah, he taught me how to scuba dive, and he probably, gave me more value than I gave him, but whatever.
I don't
And
know.
and
Sanding a
so
boat's pretty important.
yeah, but I was like this Jewish 18-year-old kid from Brooklyn sanding a boat, which I don't think I was very effective. But anyway, but anyway, so I learned to scuba dive, and then on one of my first dives, I'm in Australia. I'm diving off this boat, and when you're a young diver, like a new diver, you're usually the first one to come up because you run out of air
Right.
too quick. You
Right.
haven't really learned to breathe right, right? So
Exactly.
of course I'm the first one to like, oh, I'm running out of air. I got to go up. So I
Yeah.
go up. But on this particular day, it worked in my favor because the captain of the boat said to me, "Hey Murray, there's a whale port side." And
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
oh my gosh. So I put my tank on the deck because it was empty. And with my weight belt and snorkels and fins still on, I swam over to the port side. And lo and behold, not even 10 feet from me is this massive, massive whale. I'm pretty sure it was a right whale, but this huge, I mean, this whale was, I mean, dozens of feet long.
Hmm.
And it was just resting there by the surface, kind of curious and checking us out. And I was just like motionless, just watching it.
Hmm.
And then you catch the eye of this massive
Yeah.
creature, and and then time falls away, space falls away, and you just become one with it, as if you're staring into the eye of the universe.
Hmm.
And this was just this timeless, magical moment that I experienced that was
Mm.
kind of universally connective, and it just flooded me with this. That's the only way I could describe it. This experience of connection and divinity, and I'll never forget that. And
It's such a profound experience to have at such a young age to
yeah, I
be.
mean, at any age, but certainly as an 18-year-old for sure.
But also, you're a very advanced. This is not your first lifetime. You're in a very advanced soul path, but it's incredible that that was your
Mm.
awareness around it, to just be in the present moment with this
Yeah.
massive creature staring you in the eye. I mean, I think it's such a reminder of, when fear pops up, how fear can just
Mm.
take over and really ruin an experience like that.
Yeah.
Versus if you can just be still and find your breath. I mean, scuba diving is such a beautiful
Mhm.
sport to really learn how to breathe correctly, right? Because to your point, when you're first starting, you're like, oh shit, I used all my air. I'm got to go up. Versus when you get better at it, you're realizing like you're preserving your breath and you're really breathing with the rhythm of everything around you. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's a moment you will never forget.
Yeah.
Is that
Absolutely.
like your one of your spirit animals? Is the whale?
For sure. For sure. It's in any of those questionnaires where they ask you to
Of
name certain
course.
animals, the whale is always at the
What a
top of the
good
list.
one, though. Gosh, Wise, you need to come visit me in Mexico because we have 450 whales that come for winter
Oh my
in our
gosh.
bay, and they're so playful and wonderful. And you can be on a deck on the boat, and they'll just come right up to you. And they have
Yeah.
their babies because they're training their babies how to
Mhm.
be in the world. And it's the whales are fascinating to me, fascinating. And I think actually, I think that the mind travel, like if I had to give it a animal, it may
Mm.
be the whale,
Yeah. Well,
you
well,
know?
certainly. So, I think that experience stayed with me, and cut to many, many years later when I started mind travel. Yes, we started it at first in concert halls, but then quickly on the beach. So now we do it on beaches with the headphones. But
Mhm.
I then developed an experience where we do it actually underwater. We do it
No
in
way.
Yeah, we do it in these swimming pools, and I have everybody floating, and I place these special underwater speakers in the water on the bottom of the pool, and the pool is heated up in salt water, and it's just like beautiful, perfect. And so it's like returning to the womb in a way.
Wow.
And then the first sense that develops in the womb is actually our hearing.
Mhm.
And we hear the mother's heartbeat, we hear the blood flowing and the fluids, and we hear the outside world. And that's the first sense that develops.
And so a lot of moms put the headphones on their
Yeah,
bellies and
I've seen
yeah.
that. They
Yeah.
do.
Play classical music or whatever.
They do. They do. And
Mhm.
so I developed this mind travel floating underwater experience because I was always struck by how whales were able to communicate,
Mhm.
hundreds and hundreds of miles,
Mhm.
right, with other pods and other whales. Because again, we said earlier that sound needs a medium. Now, in air, the call of a whale would
Right.
actually peter out after, I don't know,
Right.
a very short distance. But
Yeah.
in water, which is much denser,
Mhm.
it actually can travel, especially low frequencies, like a whale's song,
So cool.
can travel hundreds and hundreds of miles. And so I was like, what would music sound like underwater? And then I developed these speakers and put them under, and I start playing the piano. And when you're underwater and you hear these piano notes, it's like where am I? Like you're in this fantastical dream world.
And
And
it's
so
vibrating, right? I mean, the music
and you
underwater
not only
vibrates
hear it,
too. Yeah.
yeah, you not only hear it, but you actually can, if you're close enough to the speaker, you actually can feel, especially the bass notes,
Mhm.
in your belly because we are
Mhm.
hollow instruments. We
Mhm.
have spaces in
Mhm.
us. We
Yeah.
resonate. We
Yeah.
each of us are like unique individual violins and cellos and basses,
Yeah.
and we vibrate and resonate on our skin and our insides, and so uh, that became this incredible experience. We continue it. We do it all the time now. Each month we have these sessions, and people get to connect. And water. Yes, you're in the water floating, and it's all around you. But let's not forget that 70+% of our bodies are
Of
water.
course.
And
We don't
so
even need to submerge.
that's right. And so
Mhm.
you kind of dissolve into this union as water.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just this opening into this expansion. And again, also about how do we transcend the body to experience pure consciousness, right?
Right.
Which gets back to, your experience, which was music as this pathway to this consciousness superhighway that's available to us, but elusive most of the time.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to that journey because I've been through some similar musical experiences. Maybe not with a baby grand in the base of a crater in the Serengeti,
Mhm.
but you are a very large part of this transference of energy. Your wisdom transfers, your calmness. You're like a monk that's doing this beautiful transmission for all of us, and that's not to be taken as second because it's so much a part. I was so much attracted to the facilitation of what you were doing through this experience
Mm.
as I was about the music, and that's what I think is genius about what you've really come to understand and play with is you do understand universal consciousness. You do understand how the world is working, how things are connected through vibrational energy and frequency, and you understand yourself, which is where it really starts, right? Is your deep level of true understanding and acknowledgement of who am I. And I think that you're really mastering your life journey because this is the whole point is get to know the self, then share your gifts with the world and let that radiate into this beautiful experience. And it's what I mean, you're crushing it. You're crushing life. You're getting an A
Well,
plus as far as I'm concerned.
and
But
it's a practice in that way, right, Liz?
of
I mean, that's
course.
and it always has been since I was young, and I try to use the music, to learn more about, the universe, to learn more about myself, to create that space for reflection, so that we can grow and we can
Yeah.
learn, and then to share that. I mean, there's nothing better than sharing that.
No, and I think experiential sharing is the best teaching modality because it's not preaching and it's not textbook learning. It's this interactive way of getting back to our innate selves
Yeah.
and to remembering who we really are. And I think that's one of the most powerful transmissions you can have is when it's an actual experience that you get to play out. But if you could go back because you've lived such a beautiful life and you've really found, I feel like, the center point of how to move and flow through your life, what message would you give to your younger self if you could go back at any age? It doesn't matter, but is there a message that you wish you could have received like from your now self going back?
Oh, wow. There would be a lot of messages, but okay, if I had, let's see if I can narrow it down.
You
I,
can tell me all of them. We got we got time.
I think certainly at the top or close to the top of the list would be, I tell my younger self that, you're enough,
Mm,
that you're enough,
mm,
that there's nothing to prove, and you're enough, and just enjoy more, and don't feel so much pressure.
mm.
Pressure comes in so many forms when you're really young,
Yeah.
and it comes from your family and your parents. It comes from your school. It comes from your community. It comes from your country and the societal norms. It comes from the world. It comes from your self. It comes from all
Hmm.
these internal conditionings, and it gets really noisy. And I think when we just give ourselves permission to just, there's plenty of time.
Mm.
I was in such a rush. I was in such a uh, uh, just there's plenty of time.
Yeah.
And yes, there's an urgency to life because life is short in that sense, but there's also plenty of time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just to have some patience and to really get that inside out way of living
Hmm.
as opposed to that outside in
Yeah.
way of living. And to but you can't really know that until you experiment with both sides of the
Of course, you have
you
to
know?
make the mistakes and get
Yeah.
messy and do all the things, but I think we're in an awareness now that we can start to instill, I mean, we all come into this world knowing much more and then we forget it all and then we have to go back to remembering because we screwed it all up and we kind of lost our path. And so really, I feel like one of the things that you talked about is that you had a practice early on in your life. And I think when you just implement some conscious awareness in terms of practice on a daily basis to really hone in on yourself, to really tap into who am I, and to strengthen that position every day, I think that's when you have the luxury of you have enough time.
Mhm.
Don't rush. But when you're kind of just screwing off and wasting time, then you do get to a point in your life and you're like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
wasted a lot of time. So I love that you had that early practice as your young self to guide you into a deeper, richer meaning for your life. And I think, if I can give any of the listeners one takeaway, like really hone in on that. What is the practice that you're doing on a daily basis that can really connect you to yourself so that you can really enjoy more
Yeah.
time to do the things that you want to do? I think it's powerful.
Yeah, and they don't have to be so complicated. Like
No.
they could be really simple. Like what is the one thing that you do that, when you're doing it, you just feel truly yourself. And it could be lots of things, and it
Yep.
probably is lots of things, but just find one or two of them that are easy to implement. Whether
Yep.
even if it's a walk on the beach or in a park or in your neighborhood, whatever it is that, when you're doing it, you're like, I just feel really connected.
Yeah.
I'm able to really be myself. And I'm
Yep.
not pretending. I'm not putting a mask on for anything or anyone.
Yep.
And I can just be me.
100%. Find that one thing and put it into your daily life. Like there's always enough time for that. That's truly, truly,
Yeah.
that's true. Okay, so this is came here to love, right? And the love that we're really talking about is the vibrational frequency of love and how that actually shapes our reality. But how has love throughout the course of your life evolved into your life experiences? And have you always known love to be that? Or, give us a little insight on your interpretation of love.
Hmm. I think growing up in the family I grew up in, I grew up in a very loving home. My parents just celebrated their 57th anniversary.
Wow.
Like, I don't know,
Wow.
just something,
Something to be
crazy, right?
celebrated.
Yeah. So, I grew up in a very close family. There's five of us, five siblings, and my parents, and very close, and lots of extended family. But the funny thing is that nobody said, and even till today, like we're not a family that says, like at the end of every phone call, like, okay, I love you, okay, I love you, okay, I love you. Like I don't, we're just not that family. But
Yeah.
there's huge love, there's tremendous love. But I kind of got this message, right, in whatever way that no love is through action, is through
Mm,
what you do and not through what you say.
mm,
And so that was always kind of with me. It's like it's through your behavior, it's through your
mm.
actions, and what you say is of course important, but certainly don't want to say hurtful things, but
Yeah.
it's not about expressing love primarily through words. It's expressing love through your actions, right?
Mm.
And so that's been with me for a long time, and I even till today carry that through into my friendships and relationships and all that.
That's just who you are. That's just, I mean, all of us feel that right now. You are that embodied love as an action and just as a way of being.
Oh, well, thank you. So,
Yeah.
and then to me, it's like the expression of love then is about, how do we express love and how does love actually emerge, right? If you have no love that is felt present, and how would you attempt to emerge it, to
Mm,
manifest it in
mm,
any given moment? Well,
mm,
I think the catalyst for love emerging is some kind of sharing has to take place.
mm,
So, you can look at a shared conversation. Now, love can very much emerge through a shared conversation,
mm,
a shared time, a shared moment. You can share bodies, right? We share love in that
mm,
way,
mm.
right? So there's a sharing that needs to take place for love to kind of poke its head out, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and that's important to remember because we all too often, I think, expect love to show up, to
Mm,
just be there. And when it's not there, what do we actually do? Like if
mm,
you're with someone that you're expecting a certain quote love to be present and you're not feeling it and you have an expectation that you're supposed to be feeling a certain way, what we actually do is retreat. We don't go into sharing, we actually pull back.
we go
That's a
into fear.
We go into fear, like,
Hmm.
wait, am I not loved? Am I going to be
Hmm.
rejected? Am I not feeling? Am I not going to be loved the way I want to be loved? And
Right.
and so we pull back, we retreat because we're like, oh, that person should come chase me into my cave
Hmm.
and show me how much they love me.
Hmm.
So well, no. So now we're saying no. The way is you have to share some, even if you're sharing something that's uncomfortable, and that's what's so
100%.
incredible is that even through a conversation that's uncomfortable, where there's discomfort, especially if it's
Hmm.
uncomfortable, there's an opportunity for deeper love and connection.
I
So,
love this.
so
I love it.
you look at
Hmm.
like where are there moments of sharing taking place, and that's where we can share more is where we can love more with anyone, with a stranger, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
And that's the calculus of love.
Hmm.
And to think of love less as a noun, I remember thinking of it really as a noun. Like, okay, do I have love?
Of
Checkbox or no?
course. Yeah.
Like, is there
Yeah.
love in my life? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's like it
It's a
lives
thing.
and
It's not a
breathes.
thing. Yeah.
It lives and breathes. It's a process. Like the whole
Yeah.
universe is a process.
Yeah.
And when we think of it that way, when we think of it more as a verb and less as a noun,
Hmm.
now we can have love in action, right?
Yep.
Now we can love in movement, in motion, which implies a sharing. It implies a motion to it. Not like, yes, I know they love me and it's in this little box somewhere. Maybe it's in a safe deposit box at the bank that I haven't opened up in 30 years, but I know they love me because I know it's in that little box,
It's
right?
so true.
So
Oh, it's so true.
so
It's John Mayer. I think he wrote the song "Love Is a Verb." I love that
oh
song
yeah.
because it's
Okay.
it's a really good expression. And the way I think about what you're talking about, love is energy, right? So I always think of like it could be a heart shape. You can put it whatever shape you want, but I think of a globe, like a lit globe. And when you're sharing love, it's almost like you're handing somebody this lit globe, and that globe is the energy of love, right? And when that's received, as you're saying in that sharing, it actually lights up this internal light in the other person. And that's the
Yeah.
exchange of that energy. And when we can start to look at it like that, you so beautifully explained it. It becomes fun and it doesn't become demanding. It's
Yeah.
it's just I want to send you love because what I have in my heart. And that's how I want to express myself in the world. And I don't need anything back. It would be wonderful if you could exchange love back to me, but that's not why I'm doing it.
That's right.
And I think that's the other thing, is that love gets confused by tit for tat. I give you love, but what are you giving me back? And we get in that spiral where it gets pretty loud sometimes, even as a verb. So we have to really think about, can we give love to everyone around us, whether it's the cab driver, whether it's your best friend, whether it's your lover, whether it's your child? Can you do that without expecting anything back?
Yeah.
And I think that's the true action of love.
Yeah. And so this is right. So that's all about, you know, thinking of it through a transactional lens versus a transformational lens.
100%.
And so is love transactional in your life? Like, oh,
Right.
I'm going to do this for them because, then I can get, okay, look, there's nothing, it's not about right or wrong, good or bad.
No.
It's just, there's just levels of experience. And, we're always looking to consume love. Yeah, we want to consume more love. We want more love. We want more love.
Well, we want more of everything
Right.
in this external world we live in. Oh my gosh.
And so once we realize, like, okay, yes, okay, yes, of course we want to consume more love, we want to experience more love. But if we take the approach of, instead of being a consumer, be a producer, like, can I produce more love in the world?
Or
And
even like what you're doing. I love the word composing. Could you be a composer of love?
that's right.
That's beautiful.
Can you compose more? Can you create more? Can you produce more love? And I think, everybody might find that in those moments when there's certain things we're not feeling that we wish we were feeling, and fill in the blank. It could be love, but it could be joy.
Yeah.
It could be all kinds of feelings that, I wish I had more joy in my life. Well, okay. So, but what most people do, again, is kind of sit back and, hoping someone's going to come along and make them feel more joy, or externally, try to find situations that are going to give them more joy. Like, oh, I'm going to go to a comedy club. I'm going to going to have drinks with friends, or whatever it is that hopefully someone can fill my void of joy.
Right.
As opposed to, anytime we're feeling kind of a lack of something, if we just focus on how can I actually create it,
Right.
and
From the inside.
if I could just create it from the inside for myself or for others, what we end up finding is that we feel it ourselves. That's just what happens.
It's what you were talking about, the difference between inside out living and outside in living. So when you actually have this concept embodied, inside out living, meaning what Murray was just speaking to, of can you compose, create, produce from the inside, then it's not a need. It's just not a need, because you're not filling up some void. You're actually doing it because this is what your heart's wanting to express.
And our lives shift from transactional to transformational when we start really thinking about the question of, who am I being versus what am I doing? So it's like, who am I being in this moment? Am I being love? Right? Not just doing something loving, which is wonderful, but am I being it? Am I actually being it?
Yeah.
And then your life really starts, because then it permeates everything. Because then it's not just like, oh, I'm loving when I'm with a certain person. No, it's like, I'm loving when I'm doing my laundry.
Totally.
I'm
Totally.
loving, that's who you're being, even when you're by yourself.
You're loving life. I mean, it's all there. It's like,
So
you're loving the good, you're loving the hard parts. Yeah, it's very different.
It's a very different attitude, posture towards the whole universe.
In connection to that, I think that's where peace lies. If you can get to that process that you were just explaining, I think you come into this harmonious state within, and you see life through a different lens of, compassion and harmony and peace and deep internal wisdom. And it's like, well, what a fun place to be able to flow through life.
You bring up a very powerful point, which is, especially with things going on in the world today. So you're bringing up peace in a very unpeaceful world. I think if you were to ask most people, what's the opposite of love? Well, I think most people would probably say hate. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's like what we're taught when we're five. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you love someone, you hate someone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually not the opposite of love. The true opposite of love is indifference.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
when you are just indifferent to something or someone, you are in the opposition, the polar
Mm-hmm.
opposite of love. Hate is extremely emotionally charged,
Yeah.
as is love. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
they're not actually opposites. They
Right.
actually, hate actually points to love,
Mm-hmm.
because you wouldn't hate something, someone, you name it, fill in the blank, unless you had love for something.
Of course.
And so when you look at the process of peace, I think part of it is through, of course, conversation and listening, is and discovery, to see, like, discover what do you both actually love?
Mm.
Where is the commonality of love? And what story is getting in the way of that? Because there is always a story that's getting in the way of it.
Yeah.
So, we just have, I think, a misunderstanding of some of these states.
100%. Well, and I think, for me, I kind of talk to myself in the language of I've got my ego self and I've got my soul self. And how are those two behaving? And it's been helpful for me to sit in awareness around both, to really look at, okay, so when I'm acting in hate, for example, like what's really acting there? Is that my true self, or is that just my ego kind of bent out of shape? And so I think when we can start to pull apart the layers of ourselves and really dive deeper into the knowing part of ourselves, and then actualize into the being part, it's fascinating what we learn and what the nuggets are to dive into. What would you say with this? My life feels meaningful when.
In my line of work and what I do, I get this, what I call the kind of boomerang effect. I put out there what I put out there, through my work, through music, through my words and music. Um, but quite often, at the end of a concert, people will come up and, whether it's on the microphone at the end or one on one with me, they'll share their story, and they'll share how they had a breakthrough, because of the music, similar to what you shared. And,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll share the pain they went through, the struggle they were experiencing, and then some new way of experiencing life that is now available to them. I've experienced it in my own life, how that's possible, and that really was the motivation for sharing it with others. And so when that actually happens, it's like, okay, all right, what I'm doing is actually worth it here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
so
working.
so that meaning really gives me that fulfillment, and so what's coming back at me then really settles me in a very deep fulfillment. So
Mm.
that's what really allows me to, I really do move through the world, like, quite contented and feeling very fulfilled. And then that's just kind of the way I move through it. And but it's the willingness of people. Some people say, oh, what you do is so healing, but if someone's not ready for healing, it doesn't matter what you do. They have to be ready, and if they're
No, it's
ready, then yeah, it can happen really
and
quickly.
the student is ready, the teacher appears always. And you
Someone
are,
someone
yeah,
came up and said that they said 25 years of therapy, and all I had to do was come here once.
exactly. Exactly.
Uh,
But
so
that's also your embodiment of this work. And I think that's the true gift of what you're doing is we're not just getting music, we're getting you, and we're getting your experience of everything that you've gotten to learn and embody in your own life, and you transfer it to all of us. And honestly, I will for always remember that moment with you in Africa, and you will always have this deep place in my heart because of where you were able to take me, and it just was so profound in my, and it of course it happens right at the right moment when you need it, right? So again, look for these mind travel experiences because they're epic. We're going to be doing some together. I know that for sure. But what do you feel like, other than more mind travel experiences, which could be your answer? It's certainly my answer. But what do you feel like the world needs more of right now?
Well, I think the world needs more listening right now. So,
Mm,
which is, yes, it is actually the key ingredient to any mind travel, is to be able to listen.
mm,
When yeah, I'm sure many people listening are have either have a meditation practice or have tried it, or but the big challenge of meditation, whatever your modality, is being able to actually listen, because you're like, wait, but listen to what? You're sitting quietly. No, to the mind, to
mhm,
the mind. And so, can you listen to the mind and not suddenly be distracted by where it wants to take you? Can you listen to it and just let it do its thing and not be, suddenly go with your mind to what you're having for dinner and what's happening tomorrow and this conversation and what you wish you would have said, and that, and all the things. And but it's hard for that to even it's hard to even listen for more than 10 to 15 seconds, let alone,
mm,
20-minute meditation. So, or longer. So, it's our ability, our capacity to listen, which is actually a skill. Like, we can actually get better at it.
yeah,
Um,
it's an
yeah.
important skill. And I
So
and I feel like active listening really only happens in the present moment.
it
You
can only
can,
happen in the
yeah,
present. Yeah, it
yeah.
can only. Most people are listening, thinking about what they're going to say next. So that's not listening. It's
Tune back in, guys. We're calling you back.
Yeah. So, so I think, we just need more of that. When
Mhm.
I travel city to city, and look, and I go red state, blue state, purple state. I go every,
Yeah,
I
music is universal. It
and there's
turns out.
people who come, from their every religious background, every racial background, every
Hmm.
cultural background, every age. I got little kids, I have seniors, I got, and so I get to see and experience a diversity. That's the greatest gift of this, is like I am like, I get to just see a cross section of humanity, and you know what I take away from all of it,
Mm,
and it doesn't matter what they look like and what's on the surface, and all of it is that there's a common human experience. Like, I
mm,
can attest to it and it's not a small sample. Like, I have done this live for hundreds of thousands of people, and I have spoken to thousands of them for sure. And so I just I just can tell you. I could report from the field. Like, I could
yeah.
report like a scientific report. I could be like, this is what I'm seeing. Like, this
Yeah.
is sociologically what I'm telling you, is the human experience is common. The details are different, but the
Hmm.
human experience, the human arc, is the same. It's very similar. And we
Hmm.
just go through different things at different times, but we go through similar milestones of life. There will always be joy, and there will always be love, but there will always be loss, you
Right.
know, and there'll be pain, and there'll be struggle,
Hmm.
and there's all of it. And then it's a question of, how do we navigate it, and what's the relationship with our mind and with our heart as we go through that. And that will always determine the amount of struggle we have. And so, to the extent we can give people a window, a portal, like you said, you used the word portal earlier. It's like,
Mm,
okay, there's a portal available that can open up a way of thinking, seeing, a relationship with the mind that is not so tethered to the mind that you believe everything the mind says.
right.
And that's one of the greatest gifts anyone can discover for themselves, is that what occurs in the mind is actually not your truest self.
Right.
And it's the most counterintuitive thing, because you're like, wait, it's in my
Right.
mind. Of course it's me.
Yeah.
Who else?
Of
Who
course.
else is it?
It's
Who else is
always talking. Yeah.
it? Who else could it be?
Hmm.
So, but that, and to really lean, to just lean into challenge and discomfort and pain, because the
Hmm.
instinct is to pull away from it. But, to know love truly is to know heartbreak. I don't just mean relationships.
Tell me about it.
I
Yeah.
don't mean like high school breakup. I mean
Right.
like heartbreak, like
Hmm.
existential heartbreak,
Hmm.
about how the world works,
Yeah.
about humanity, heartbreak over humanity,
Hmm.
heartbreak over all of it, heartbreak over like the planet, and like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of heartbreak. So you
Yeah.
can't know love unless you fully push into heartbreak, right? But now, when we push into heartbreak, we also can see how fragile everything is. It's like to know
Yep.
heartbreak is to know fragility. And then once you're in touch with the sentiment of fragility, like what something that's fragile is impermanent. Like it's just so
Mm-hmm.
fragile. It's so precious because
Mm-hmm.
it's impermanent, because it may be gone tomorrow. And once we have that relationship with impermanence, we're like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that it's existing right now, that it's here right
Totally.
now. And
Totally.
what emerges from gratitude is back to love. So it's
Yep.
like this full cycle,
Yeah. Yeah.
of all of it. And you can start and end with love, but you can have love permeate every part of your life and being by pushing into pain,
I agree.
heartbreak, and and being in touch with the fragility and impermanence of it all to emerge with a gratitude that is so overwhelming
Mm.
that love just beams from you.
Right.
Like that's the game.
That's the game. I just went through that experience, and I can tell you at the end, it's this, yeah, it's like love is radiating out of my cells, and I can't stop it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
an amazing feeling, but it does take you to the depths to get there, and to also separate yourself from the identification with the pain and the sadness or sorrow that you're going through, and see it as that, not as you identifying with that, but to say,
Yeah.
okay, this is sadness and I'm sitting in it. I'm sitting next to sadness. And what does that feel like in that relationship? Not I am sad, but that disconnect
Yeah.
connection.
Sadness is happening.
Yeah,
Got it.
sadness is happening.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me observe it.
And
Yeah.
not to distract from it, which is the instinct,
Right.
but to just
To
let it
listen.
wave through as you listen for it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel whole when.
I feel whole all the time, so it's not contingent. It's hard for me to say that.
I love that
I
answer. That's the
don't
best.
I
That's the
don't
best answer. No,
I
that's perfect.
yeah.
That's an amazing answer. Get to that place in life, everybody. I mean, what a gift to be able to say that you feel whole
But
all
right,
the time.
that's that inside out, outside in. Like there's
100%.
nothing that's gonna make me feel whole that I don't already have.
Yeah.
Now, there's times I forget for sure,
Well,
and
of course. There's
so
times that you feel more whole than not.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
than
Yeah,
others.
wholeness is also a spectrum.
Exactly. It can be this small or it can be
Circles
this
could be
big.
small, and
Yeah,
circles could be.
exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, good, good,
Exactly.
good.
And then complete this sentence. I am.
I think you just did.
I am whole.
No, I am.
I am. Yeah. Yep.
You just did it.
Yep. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, and then and then we could shapeshift. I am, and then be whatever
Mm,
you want to create,
mm.
and that's what should
I
be in the
love that.
blend. So
Start with I am.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I am, and that's the wholeness. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and now, what do I want to create? Is different.
Right. Right.
What does the situation call for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I am compassion. It calls for compassion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it might call for tolerance. I am tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
I am patient. Okay. Or sometimes I need to be assertive, so I am assertive.
It's actually a very cool exercise to do in a moment when you need to step into something like that powerful, that you're met with conflict or something, and you
Yeah.
question, you listen to yourself, what am I right now? I need to be really, I need to be compassionate. Okay. So then I
Yeah.
am compassionate.
What is the situation? What is the situation calling for?
Right. I love that
And
question.
look, yeah, and there could be the trigger that is causing me to be a certain way. Do I really want to choose that?
Right.
Or is that some pattern that's creeping up from some
Right.
past situation? Okay,
Yeah.
let me choose again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. The last complete this sentence is love is.
I'll go back to what I said earlier, I guess. Love is sharing. Love is sharing. And also that sentence is love is. Love truly is all that there is. Love just is.
Yeah.
Love
doesn't need a fill
a
in the blank.
contingency. It doesn't need a contingency. It's not, it can't even be defined. Yeah, love is divine. Of course it's divine. Love is. Love just is.
Yeah.
It is itself, and there's an honesty to the way it is because of that.
You are all of that. You are whole. You are complete. You are I am. You are love. I am. I'm going to complete that sentence for me. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to you for your teachings, for your wisdom, for the willingness to do your work on this journey through Earth School, because your touch is huge, and I continue to be just so in awe of all that you are. So thank you for being the whole man that you are and being such a light to all of us to learn from. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, and thank you for amplifying, you know, these kind of conversations that we all need to hear. So thank you.
Of course, you guys can find more about Murray in the show notes. I'll be sharing all of that, and then look for events coming up. Maybe we'll be doing a little collaboration at some point. So anyways, thanks again for listening and tuning in to Came Here to Love. Until next time, go tell someone you love.
Thank you for joining us on Came Here to Love. I hope today's conversation has inspired you to live more fully, align with your soul, and spread more love in the world. Remember, love is the highest vibration, and when we lead with it, we elevate not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. If today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who could use a little more love in their life. And as always, keep tuning in for more heart-centered conversations that remind us all why we are here to love. Until next time, keep living your light and loving with your whole heart.